Good morning. The sun is shining. This is the Saturday morning show, the Fife Property Show. Today, we're going to be talking about moving mistakes. Why finding a home before you have a buyer is a huge risk. I mean, the reality is, if you've decided that you want to move, you could be thinking the same as thousands of other homeowners. There's nothing on the market at this moment in time. So you'll wait to put your home up for sale until you find your next one. So in other words, I'm not going to put mine on unless I find my next one. Guess what everybody else is thinking? I'm not going to put mine on unless I find my next one. Kerry, good morning. Is that no the situation?
Good morning, Jim. And you're right, it's a beautiful sunny day today, so I'm all in bright, sunny orange today. Yeah, it's a situation. I mean, Anne-Marie and I both see this every single day. People inquire about property. We've got people on waiting lists. So they will always say when we try to qualify them, oh no, I've not put it on the market yet. I need to find something first. I don't want to be homeless. And there is a mindset of that, isn't there?
Definitely.
Listen, it's an entirely understandable view, but from talking to many sellers, as we normally do, like you said, it's clear that they aren't necessarily aware of all the risks and potential costs of trying to find a property without being under offer first. It's a huge risk. It's a huge stressful situation as well. And I keep saying to a lot of people, could you imagine if you found your dream home tomorrow, made an offer on your property actually selling, and then suddenly you had to sell within 4 to 6 weeks and you couldn't find the right buyer for your property? And more importantly, you couldn't get the right price for your property. So therefore, you were under pressure just to accept the first thing that came in the door. That's a more frightening situation to me.
You're absolutely right. I mean, and a lot of people are missing out on their dream homes without even hearing about that dream home.
Yeah.
Because they're just not ready. They're not ready to move. They can't compete with other buyers. And we do see that quite often, Anne-Marie, don't we? That we get to a stage sometimes where our seller won't even entertain somebody that's not got their property on the market.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. You know, we're talking to these people daily. It's a daily thing. And they're just so worried. What it is, I think, basically, they're really worried about being homeless. So I'm trying to explain to them that, you know, we can manage that for them. You know, if they put their property on the market, you know, we would make sure that people that we send to view their property is flexible with entry dates. Yeah. We're not going to send anyone that's looking for a quick sale because we know that's not realistic. So we would manage that for them. And this is what I'm trying to explain to people sometimes. But I think they just think I'm just trying to get a market appraisal, but I'm not. I'm trying to, they think, oh yeah, she's, you know, she wants her commission, but it's not that at all. And I have this conversation daily. You know,
it's true, and it's not just the fact that they miss out on the dream home. You know, meanwhile, for anyone trading up as well, you know, the gap between their sale and their purchase price continues to widen. So, you know, we're seeing that monthly, Jim, aren't we? When you do the weekly update on a Sunday, the gap is changing all the time, what we're seeing and what people will offer for a property. So you're going to have to sometimes match like for like or more in some cases.
It's quite interesting because I have a client who's actually just completed and he's just sold his house and it's over the line now. But it has been about a year because he was getting a new build built for him and we had an agreement at that time. But within that year, the property prices have actually increased about 16%. And he did say to me, you know, I said, well, to be honest, if it fell through, you would get more money tomorrow. He says, should I put it back on then? I said, no. He says, because what you've just traded just now is exactly what you've just bought just now. So it's like for like. It's, you know, you're getting the benefit of the property you've bought and you committed to a year ago has actually increased more than 16%, to be honest, because it was a new build and they got it completely wrong in the pricing in the beginning.
Which is a great place.
But they missed the marker. They lost the opportunity. They got the pricing wrong in the beginning, and all the people that bought have actually locked in. I would say locked in, not made. They've locked in a huge increase and a huge gain in their actual property value in comparison to what they actually just sold for that property itself.
I mean, despite all of that, though, homeowners are still holding off putting their homes on the market, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because they are worried about in that dream home. So now that we've aired that problem, what's the solutions, Jim? That's what we need to know.
God, I say every single time, and let me get this out there again. I should just get a recording and just play it every single time.
Come on and meeting, Jim.
You know what's coming, eh? You know what's coming. There will never be a point when you put your house on the market for sale that you could end up being homeless. it is practically impossible, because you are the one that decides to sell your property to that person that's buying based on the circumstances and the negotiation that we've done as a result of you. So if we do our job right, you will never be in a position where you won't have somewhere else to go, or you won't have enough time to have somewhere else to go. Or the fact is, as well, is like, I'm not caring if it's the right price. You've not agreed to my entry date, and you've not agreed to my flexible entry date, so we're not going to sell it to you. We're going to wait on the next person to come along and offer and look at their circumstances. So it's not just about the price. It's about all the other factors that encompass that. It makes the magic happen for the seller. And that's it. You'll never be in a position when you put your house in the market without somewhere else to go that you'll be homeless. It is impossible to happen unless you allow it to happen, which is what a lot of other estate agents do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to call, I like, I call out every single time. It's like, if you've not got their interests at heart and what you want for your seller at heart, you're led by the monetary aspect. And for us, completely different proposition. We do an excellent job. We do an outstanding job. We do a really first-class job, a world-class job. And as a result, we get paid as a byproduct of what we do well. That's really what it comes down to. It's a secondary aspect of what we do. You know you're going to get paid anyway, so you may as well do an outstanding job for the customer in the first place, because that's exactly what you're paying for. And often you see it's the other way around. It's like, I want the money first. I'll give you the service when I get the money. That's the kind of, and it's like, that's not why I got into estate agency in the first place. That was never the ethos of it. It was to provide a first-class service, and the monetary aspect was a byproduct of what we do well. And that's why when it comes to the interests of the seller, I will put the seller's interest before mine every single time.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think before we kind of go any further as well, I think it is important to say that nobody does expect to make anybody homeless. But if you do want to move, we need to look at how you can overcome that supply shortage and open that exciting new chapter in your life to find that dream home that you're looking for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, keeping your home off the market sends you back to the back of the queue as a buyer, doesn't it, really?
Absolutely, it does.
And what do we mean by that? Well, if you choose to sell your home, your efforts will go into finding a buyer who is actually able to move. In theory, the estate agents where you're looking to buy should be doing the same on the homes that they have for sale. So it's essential to use the current market to your advantage, or you're likely to end up one of the three situations. So the three situations, what are these three situations? Let me discuss that. You won't be able to view because your own home isn't on the market, and there's already a queue of buyers lining up who are in a position to do something about it. I'll call, if you've not got your home in the market and you're wanting to view a property with a view to buying it, and you have to sell to buy, you're literally just a tire kicker at this point in time.
Yeah.
That's the reality. So, pretty candid. A lot of people won't want to hear that, but I'm here to tell you what you need to do to find your next dream home. I'm not here to get your popularity. That's not what this is all about. You get a viewing, but can't compete with the other buyers who are either under offer or have no home to sell. And the final one for me is you have somehow manage to secure a property by a bidding way over what anyone else is offering, but with a strict time limit. This is the one I just spoke about, to getting your own property sold and other buyers snapping at your heels. And that takes a wee bit of time, because there is a time when you say, let's go. And it's like, okay, so for certain properties, we'll have to organise the drone footage. That will take possibly a couple of weeks, depending on weather and depending on whether a drone guy is actually available at that point in time. Hence the reason why we have a lot of generic drone footage, so we can just pinpoint and we can repurpose that every single time to make that and speed that process up. But for unique properties at $500,000, we usually typically do bespoke drone footage for that property with full animation round about. That takes time. Remember, this is a work of art, but it's more a work of art to get the right person, to get the right price, to get the right end result. And if you want that type of thing, it takes time to do. You can't just switch it on like that, because you've got a huge amount of variables you've got to come into line at the same time. It's like a line in the sun and the moon and the stars all at the same time.
Yeah.
It's only going to happen once in a blue moon. That's the reality. And
Totally does.
And there's other things as well. You know, Perry, what's your thoughts on that?
I think for me, it's not just about the arrangements of everything as well, and you have to manage expectation on that. But to go back to the third point that you mentioned there, Jim, about how you managed to secure the property possibly by outbidding someone, that doesn't always work either, because, you know, we had that situation very recently with a property where the highest bid did not get the property. They went all in, the potential buyer, thinking that the number would be the magic thing, and it wasn't, because they had a really tight turnaround time. That didn't work for our seller. So our seller was like, no, I'm not ready. I can't do it yet.
It's more they fail to identify the issue at hand. So if you're a buyer out there, the key point is to ask the right questions of the estate agent when you're looking to make an offer on a seller's property. You're actually, you know, the property you're after. It's find out exactly what they want. It's not sometimes about the highest price point. It's also a number of other factors, and the entry date is one of the most important ones to them, because no one wants to be in this situation where there's a restriction of supply, where they don't have somewhere else to go. That's the key. So in all probability, the last example wouldn't even really have happened right now, but most sellers won't want to risk the move, being dependent on you and getting the offer, because they have so many buyers to choose from. I talk about it like this. I actually look at it like this, right? Okay, there's 4 or 5 different tiers, right? And in terms of buyer, the best buyers. So when I go around to see a seller, classic example, your best buyer as a seller will be somebody that's got a cash offer. They're going to pay more than the home report, and they're ready to go. It's not a mortgage involved at all. And they can agree, and they're living in rented accommodation, or they're living in a house now. They don't need to sell to buy. So they can actually be completely flexible about the entry rate. If they need to wait for 9 months, 6 months, a year, or anything like that, they're more than happy to do it, because this is their dream home to them. That is your ideal buyer in tier 1. Your next one down is somebody that's a cash with a mortgage in principle, ready to go. Your next one down from there is somebody that's got an offer on their house. They're sold, they're waiting to conclude, so they're ready to go. Your next one down for there is somebody that's just put their house in the market. Guess where number 5 is? It's somebody that's not even got their house in the market. So if you're, and it's difficult to explain, but most sellers want tier 1, and yet they're tier 5. So how do you expect that to happen?
Yeah, absolutely. When I'm trying to speak to people and explain that, you know, that same situation, I use the tier system, Jim, and, you know, trying to say to them, you know, if it was you, which one would you want? You have to look at it that way as well. Some people get it.
So the point is, why would anybody accept your offer then? Because
exactly.
You're definitely not in a position to do anything. So why would they accept yours?
You have to break it down.
I think people have an expectation of their home and a belief that their home will sell because they love it. But they love it not just because of the building, they love it with everything else.
Yeah. And that's probably the key as well. So I think the most important point is to make sure you're in a position to do something. Again, I keep saying to everybody, I know we can do it. I'm going to say, I wasn't going to say you can put your house in the market, because I don't know what other estate agents do. And I'd take a hazard a guess and say they don't do what we do, for obvious reasons. So the key here is, what we do is make sure when your house goes in the market that we qualify all the buyers that come in, to make sure they're actually in a position to agree to your circumstances first before we even take them through the door. Ultimately, if you do, you're just taking tire kickers, to just look at a house, to turn around to them eventually and say, well, I'm sorry, you can't agree to anything anyway. Why did you waste my time and take me around then if that's the case? You know, I could have been sitting on the beach relaxing today. You know, it's like I could have been enjoying myself. I could have been with my family. I could have been somewhere else. I could have been at work or anything like that. And you've chosen to waste my time and actually take me, to a viewing, knowing full well that if you asked me these questions, I couldn't agree to them as a buyer. So why would you waste my time? And that's ultimately, that's it. So that's the importance of actually qualifying the buyer when they actually inquire about a house, to know it's that uniqueness of that house and the circumstances surround that, to get that right decision and get that right person through the door. So it's more quality rather than quantity in this situation. We've proved that yesterday. Roger Street and Cellar Dyke away.
Absolutely.
Aye, and the price it went for was astronomical again.
Yeah. And I think it's
a surprise.
No, it's not a surprise, but I think it's, as you say, it's about qualifying that right person. And it's also, we have to do that very openly and honestly sometimes with buyers, and buyers can get quite frustrated with that. They're saying, you know, if they're not on the market, they're saying, what, you're not even going to go and let me see the house? Well, no, because actually there's 10 people ahead of you that can go and you can't.
Yeah.
And
now,
they do get frustrated.
let me just qualify what you've said there, because a lot of people get upset about that, saying you're not letting me in the door.
Yep.
Let me just qualify that by saying our seller is not letting you in the door.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When we have that conversation with the seller and we have the conversation about who we're bringing through the door, a lot of the times the seller said, there's no point in taking somebody round to my property who is not in a position to proceed, or you've not seen their house and you've not assessed their house and you don't know how sellable their house is. Hence the reason why a lot of times we actually say, look, we need to come out and see your house if you're inquiring about one of our houses. But we're not ultimately wanting it to sell. You know, it'd be nice if you could sell it with us. That would be fantastic. But more than 99 times out of 100, the reason that we're going to see your house is to see how sellable your house is, in our opinion, so we can tell our seller that with confidence that we know this house will sell, so it's okay to bring you through the door. That's the key.
You're absolutely spot on there, Jim. And what we find as well, sellers are quite savvy now. Because the way the market is, sellers are savvy. They know they can get people through their doors. So just what you said about being on the beach, they don't want to waste their time. They don't want to perhaps get excited thinking this person is going to be the person, and then ultimately find out actually they weren't ever in a position to proceed the way that they wanted them to. So it's absolutely vital that we do qualify them. And our sellers will always say to us when we're booking the viewing in, what is their position?
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. Let's take a couple of comments. Andrea said, "Yep, it's managing expectations." That's absolutely right. And Paul actually says everyday conversation he has as well. And yeah, I absolutely agree. Always on the beach. Best place to be. Let's talk about the next stage in this. Okay, setting your heart on a home before having a buyer weakens your selling position. And I'll say that again. Setting your heart on a home before having a buyer weakens your selling position. Do you want to cover that, Perry?
Yeah, a lot of homes are selling very fast right now, aren't they? Certainly what we're seeing. Many of them have multiple offers. We spoke about that. Sometimes it's the number, sometimes it's the situation. It's a perfect position to be in, isn't it? Sellers are in a great situation just now. But there's a difference between getting an offer quickly and needing one urgently, isn't there? And, you know, that there may be, unless you've got that tier one person who's a cash buyer, they've nothing to sell, and they can be flexible with you, there is a chance that somewhere along the line there's a chain. So then suddenly you've got this date that everyone has to kind of comply with. We had a client, thankfully we were able to really help her, but we had a client recently who was buying a new build, who had sold her house privately. The sale fell through. We'd given her some advice at the beginning, but she'd got an off-market offer before we even got to market it. That buyer pulled out of that sale. She had 5 weeks to complete on her new property and just went into a spin a little bit. Now, thankfully, we did a great job and we got it happening, and it actually did, you know, conveyancing took place and it completed in that 5-week window. But the pressure that it put that person under, because suddenly they've got this deadline.
Can I jump in and cover that bit? You said quite clearly they had a private buyer, and we do get that now and again where people say they've got a private buyer. Let me just inform you about what happens here. Private buyers often have not been qualified. They don't know, you don't know what position they're in. And because you know that person, usually just take their word for it and they're good for it. And more than 99 times out of 100, here we go again, most private buyers don't actually conclude. And they don't actually, because they've not actually found out where they are with things. They've not actually been for a mortgage. They've not actually got that sorted out or anything like that. So you just take it on face value that the private buyer is in a position to do it. Also, most private buyers will pay significantly more when it goes on with an estate agent. Prove that every single time. Because we've had people with private buyers in the past have actually come to us and actually said to us, no, we just want to put it on with you. And I've managed to get 15, 20, 30,000 more out of that private buyer. That is why you use an estate agent. One, it actually knows what they're doing. It can understand the dynamics. It is a strong negotiation process. That's why you do that. So I've proved that every single time. I've got examples every single time. I can refer people to the people I actually did that for that reason. So that's another key point. Even when someone gets a lot of offers within a week of hitting the market, it is actually often part of the campaign that actually ends up going to a closing date regardless, because, you know, it's just, you know, we had that recently. we had loads and loads of people offering on a property, a commercial property. And then, we eventually had to say, look, guys, we're just overwhelmed with everything. We need to finalise this and put this to a closing date because we have everybody going through the door for the next 6 months. And you're all going to be at the same level. So let's get some final conclusion on it. So, I mean, even when someone gets a lot of offers within a week of hitting the market, it's important to get that sorted out in the campaign leading up to to what we call, an open day where we'll get everybody through the door at the same time.
Yeah, I think a lot of what we do beforehand is the coming soon piece. So we do, we're doing the top secret, we're doing the coming soon, we're doing our pre-portal. People are seeing all of that and getting a prime opportunity to feel that home and decide if it's for them before it even hits the market. And that's all that work that goes into that beforehand that then gets that rush, hopefully, at the outset. And then the client gets the best option for it and it fits with everyone.
Absolutely. Good morning, Angela. This is quite an important one as well. All that work that's done beforehand, before it comes to the market. You're absolutely right. That's why we developed the top secret system. So the top secret system was ultimately designed to tell people way in advance, roughly when this property could be coming to market and whereabout it is and what it is. And what price point it's going to be at. Because if somebody's really interested in it and it kind of sounds like their dream home, they probably need to get in touch with us pretty quick in order to make sure they've got their ducks in a row so we can assess exactly what where they are right now. I went out to someone the other day and she's due to retire in about 5 years' time. Now, this person has not got a pension at all, but they were looking at their options, and we discussed the options as well of doing that, downsizing, releasing money, investing it in property, and actually giving her a mainstream income every single month to actually, while the price in property it goes up in value as well for long-term capital growth. So how many estate agents do that? None, zero.
I think you'd be hard pushed to find another one. But actually, this is a really good topic that I think we need to give some clarity on as well, Jim. And I know that you repeat it in your Sunday show, you repeat it in your pre-portal, you do it when you do your coming soons. But again, we find it, the people that are seeing these videos in some occasions become quite frustrated because they think that because they've seen it, they have to be able to get into it the next day. Yeah. This is not a process of getting you in the next day. This is a process of understanding who you are, what you're looking for. Does that property work for you? And allowing you, according to our seller, if they're happy, for you to be one of those first people through the door. But it doesn't happen overnight. There's a whole process that we have to go through to get to that point before that happens. But it is getting you ahead of the pack as such. Well, so,
there's pre-portal in a nutshell as well. I mean, pre-portal was a priority access system. Pre-portal is only ever about people that are in a position to proceed and they can make an offer the seller can't refuse at this point in time. And often you still get people saying, can I get a view? And it's like, so how significantly over the home report can you pay? Well, I can only pay up to the home report. Get in line with everybody else when it hits the websites then, because the reality is pre-portal is only designed for priority access if you're in a position to proceed and you could make an offer at that point in time that the seller cannot refuse. That is why you get, it's kind of like BA, you've got your executive club. It's like, right, let's let all the executive members on board first. That's what it is. That's, you pay for priority access. And why not? If it's your dream home and you want that home and you're prepared to pay that value, that's all it is. It's all designed to find out the right price point for you. You're prepared to pay that value. Why should you not get priority access? Because you're prepared to pay significantly more than someone else. And more importantly, agree to the circumstances surrounding the sale in terms of possible entry date. That could tick all the boxes. So it's a win-win situation for both parties in that scenario. Unfortunately, other people miss out, but genuinely, it's really the fact that that's what priority access is all about. And then the next steps out of that is where everybody else starts as an estate agent, is actually just putting on websites. So we've got two processes before that. Actually, three, because I do a coming soon when I sign it up as well.
Yeah, you do. But actually, those people who do proactively register with ourselves an interest in a property, and again, just to be clear for those that are watching, you are then the first people that go through the door if you tick all the boxes that our seller is looking for. So we let those people go first, and then when it hits the website, all the new inquirers, they go second if it's still available.
Absolutely, I would say that, yeah. Okay, so by generating inquiries to the run-up to your launch, you can build excitement, fill a day with viewings, and be sure that you've reached everyone who's looking for a home like yours, plus the fact they're all qualified beforehand. So you're getting the quality through the door rather than the quantity. when you're up against the clock and desperate, this is the one we will come back to, which I spoke about in the beginning. When you're up against the clock and desperate to avoid losing your home you want to buy, you'll actually replace the luxury time with the feeling of being pressured every single time. It's what you said, Perry. It's that the lady in question just left herself completely under pressure, and we made that happen. But fortunately, we were in a position uniquely to do that because we're quite good at turning things round, because we've got all these audiences built up already. Now, what I'm talking about audiences, when I talk about that, it's not database. It's not, oh, we've registered all these people. It's like, no. We've registered all these people. That's what everybody else does. But what we're doing here, we're actually building audiences of people. So on social media, on retargeting campaigns, through all the different avenues that we've got. So when people hit our website, that audience goes into data, and then it collects that data, and then it retargets people on the social media platforms. That's how we often appear halfway between your apps when you're watching something, and it's because your data suggests to us, or suggests to the, to our campaigns that are running, that you will possibly be interested in buying that property or selling that property as well. So that's why we do that. That's the whole point. So you don't feel pressured, and that's another avenue that we build. So we're able to turn that around because we have these audiences pre-built. So we've got a huge market. When we hit the market, it's almost like, what I liken it? When the Star Wars trailer comes out about a year beforehand, and everybody freaks out and shares it with each other, and goes absolutely mental, goes, wow, Star Wars, oh, I can't wait, and all the rest. I better put a reminder and stuff. That's exactly what Preportal is designed to do. That's exactly what Top Secret's designed to do. It's about getting people excited about it. So when you hit that and it does come to market and it does, right, we're ready to go, everybody's running at once. It creates so much demand from people. And because of that, it then gets people excited. It then gets people to think, I better pay the price I should be paying rather than trying to lowball it. That's how you get the natural price point.
Absolutely true. And, to follow on from that, when we talk about being under pressure, if you need an offer fast as well, you could end up selling for less than the market would possibly give you if you had time on your side to allow that excitement to build in the property, isn't it? Because you're not allowing it to work its magic and get you the best outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. People are achieving life-changing sums. You've got and that might surprise everyone. Particularly with a well-structured campaign, that this can be done, as I've said before. Put time on your side so your home can realize its maximum potential value by getting all that knowledge and advice first. Just invite us out. Sean's actually said it there. Sean, I don't want to put your comment up because it's personal, possibly to you, and I could see your comment you've made about equity release and that. But please feel free to reach out and just message us direct with your contact details. Perry or Anne-Marie will book somebody in, book possibly more than likely me, and I'll possibly have a wee chat with you and see where we go from there, and to see if I can make that happen for you. I know sometimes it's the classic example of you don't know what you don't know, but that's why you get us, because I've been at this for 30 years as an investor and as an agent and, a real estate agent, a letting agent, and all these different avenues. So I understand the dynamics, plus the fact we've been a financial accountant before in the industry, understand the finance behind everything and how to do it. So absolutely reach out, Sean. Anne-Marie, do you want to talk about the next one? Unless you already have a buyer, you'll miss out on off-market homes.
Yes, absolutely. So you really, again, what we were saying before, you need to be in the position, if you haven't got a buyer for your property and you're adamant that you want to, find a property first before putting yours on the market. Again, it goes back to the tier system. You'll be at the back of the queue. The off-market homes won't be available to you. You'll just be, just a spectator, or as Jim said, a tire kicker. You're just not in a strong position. It's not even worth looking at off-market homes. No one's going to entertain you, with all due respect.
Absolutely. Anybody there, show us some love. Hit that love button. We're kind of like, listen, feel free to show us some love in the comments as well, because the reality is, remember, we're just sitting at a screen. I'm looking at a camera here and talking into a microphone. So it's great to get interaction with other people and hear the feedback as well, especially when you're making things happen for somebody. Perry, what's your thoughts on this?
Oh, for me, I think, we've touched on that a little bit there. Not every home that sells makes it as far as the property portals, do they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Ourselves. You know, it might never even reach our website in some instances, because of the weeks of activity that we do ahead of the game. Gives them an opportunity to get something before, an off-market deal, effectively, as we would call it, because it's only on market once it hits the websites as such. But according to research by Hamptons, there was 37,000 off-market sales in the first 3 months of 2022.
Wow.
That's 10% of the total market so far.
And I'll be honest, there's been a lot of money lost in opportunities.
Yeah.
to the people that actually 37,000 people potentially could have lost significantly more, which would have allowed them to make better choices for the place that they're going to. And it can happen sometimes, but there is occasions some people want off-market sales because they don't want the exposure because the circumstances surrounding what they've got. A classic example I was thinking about yesterday, I was looking at the property buyers, right? These property buyers that appear and say, oh, we can buy your home, we can give you cash in 28 days and all the rest of it. Yeah, we could do that as well. But I think, in my opinion, I think we're a bit more upfront with what the terms of the agreement is. So often it's a case that, you know, classic example in the past, I've taken people that have been in repossession territory. I've made sure they're in a position to do something. But what I've done is I've marketed the property. I've upfronted all the costs for them. I've made sure it happened because I knew fine that they could get significantly more, but they just buried their head in the sand and they didn't have any idea about what to do next. So we've taken them to that point where they've actually walked away with money in their hand and they've not been repossessed as a result. So that's typically why sometimes off-market deals will happen. But it doesn't mean to say every off-market deal will get below home report or home report or whatever. I genuinely think off-market deals can get significantly over the home report if you've got the right database and you've got the right retargeting technology to find the right buyer as well. I think that could be done quite easily. But often people look at off-market as a lower value, don't they?
Yeah, they do. But I mean, who gets to find out about these homes, Jim?
People that are registered with us. That's it. If you're not registered, but you've had it, you'll not find out about anything.
Exactly. But it's also the buyers that are ready to go.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that happens, isn't it? If the buyer's ready to go and it suits the circumstances of the seller, and we know by the conversation that we've had, we'll obviously go straight to these buyers beforehand because we know they can tick all the boxes before we go anywhere else. Again, it's a priority access system. You know, that's how it works. And I keep saying priority access, and some people could go, well, what about me? And it's like, hard lines. That's really what it comes down to. It's like, and, you know, we beat this drum every single week or every single time to tell you what you need to do to be in a position to do it. Hence the reason why I say sometimes to people I've spoken in the past, go and tape this. And then when you think about a different answer to what I've just given, go and play it back to yourself and listen to it again, because it is the right answer. You just don't want to hear it at this point in time.
Yeah. And buyers that are ready to go are those that basically have nothing to sell, perhaps. They've already got a sale agreed.
Yeah.
But even then, how do you make sure you're on the VIP list to get that call about that house?
Yeah, you got to stay in touch, you know, with your agent. You've got to, you know, because there's so many people that we're dealing with. You need to really stay in touch with us, you know, build that rapport. I mean, you know, that's one thing we're good at, rapports, but just stay in touch, keep in touch, you know, and you'll be on that list. We will remember you every time. We'll see something coming up. We'll call you. Look, this is coming up, you know, just in case they missed the you know, coming soon or top secret. Stay in touch.
Look at what happened the other day, and I'll tell you an example of what happened the other day. I was out to a property in Pittenweem, and then the day before I was out to a property in Anstruther. And the people in the property in Anstruther said to me quite clearly, they're looking for a bungalow, 2 or 3 bedroom in Pittenweem, and that's what they're looking for. And lo and behold, there was nothing available at that time. And lo and behold, I was out the next day to that property in Pittenweem, and I was able to phone them straight away and says, I've actually got a property, potentially it could be coming up. I know it's coming up, actually, because they've just said that they're going on the market. So I can tell you about it now before it even hits the market. And they went over it and they thought about it and all the rest of it. Now, at this point in time, it wasn't the right property for them, but I was able to pass that knowledge on because I understood what was coming up next and I knew what they wanted as well. Yeah. And that's the beauty of actually being registered and actually having the right information with the estate agent you're actually buying with. I mean, it's key to have a clear list of non-negotiables.
Yeah.
I mean, things like, for example, if you definitely want a garage and it's a deal breaker, then tell the estate agent that you need a garage. That's it. If you need a double garage because you've got a beautiful car and you want a workshop to the side, then actually say that. You know, don't skip about it. Don't just say, I'm looking for a 4-bedroom family home, and kind of leave it at that. Be quite specific, because then your agent will come back to you and say, okay, you've made a few clear demands, and we're obviously looking for the unicorn property, the one property in the whole of Britain that you're looking for. Can we narrow this down and talk about deal breakers? So what about your catchment area? Is that a deal breaker? So what about off-street parking? Is that a deal breaker? So what about a garage? Is that a deal breaker? So what about an ensuite? Is that a deal breaker? So what about a bathroom upstairs and downstairs? Is that a deal breaker? So all these different things. So what about, a conservatory or a sunroom? Is that you said you wanted a sunroom. Does that mean you wouldn't accept a conservatory? These are all the different things that an agent should go through with you, and you should be educating an agent to what. I mean, I'll be honest, as a buyer, you probably need to educate most estate agents at this point in time. Because I've dealt with a lot of them over the years with being a property buyer as well. And you do have to give them a lot of education about what you exactly want and what is deal breakers to you. So that's my suggestion to you as a buyer, what you should be doing with other estate agents and educating them about what you need. And if they get it, if you educate them to write to them, they will ultimately deliver the goods for you. Hopefully.
It's absolutely true. But you need to be, as a buyer, you do need to be very clear on that. We've got a particular buyer at the moment. And to be honest with you, as the agents and all of the team, we're slightly confused on what to put towards this person, because they've looked at so many different opportunities with property that we have, that actually, if something came on, we wouldn't know if that's of interest to that person or not, because they're just not being that specific. So again, if you're really looking to move quickly, you want to maximize the way the market is, know what you want, communicate that, and then we will help you find it.
You've got the odd person that keeps saying every single property that comes on, that sounds like the best property for me.
Yes, absolutely.
I think we all know who we're talking about here.
Yeah. Yes. And then you get all the details.
And then when you get the property onto the market, they go, no, it's not really for me. It's like, for goodness sake, you've got to be specific about what you're looking for then. It's like, I'm reading this book now about, a very successful real estate agent in America. And this is the dilemma he goes through all the time. He often had people buying properties, and they were like, it was at one point, the bit I'm reading just now, is he was almost about to sit down with that person and say, look, I'm going to have to give up. I can't find the ideal property, because every time you contact me, you chop and change and you're all over the place. You don't give any clear, specific instructions. So I'm taking you to properties time and time again, and you say, no, it's no for me, it's no for me, it's no for me. And then all of a sudden, when he was about to say that, one appeared, and it was the magic one. Talk about the laws of attraction, and making that happen.
You do. It can happen.
The other one as well is, unless you have you already have a buyer and you miss out on off-market homes, and this is another key point to this. Show flexibility where you can. So, would you extend to get that 4th bedroom or modernise a kitchen or bathroom? That's the key there. So, actually, again, it's like, I'm all right with a doer-upper because I've got money aside to do that. And specifically say that to the agent. I've got money aside, so I'm all right with a doer-upper. I'm quite happy to do that, because often you have to put money over and above what the home report value is. Because if you're getting a mortgage, you'll only get up to the home report value. Everything else after that has to come out your own pocket. So then you have to make sure you've got the budget as a buyer to pay for any refurbishment improvements, or unless you're buying for cash, and then you're just going to mortgage it later on once you've done it. That's another option to do. But that's another story.
Yeah, I mean, that flexibility you talk about there, Jim, that's something that you've taught all of us. So, when we're even getting feedback when someone has gone to see a house and they say, well, actually, this was missing or didn't have that. And your question that you kind of educate us to use as well, if we could fix that, then what? If we could fix that, then what? And that really helps us understand if it can still be fixed with that one, or what the next one would need to be.
Yep. Here, I'm wanting a house to buy in Fife. Okay. Do you want Dunfermline? No. You want Kirkcaldy? No. St Andrews? No. East Nuke? No. Leaven? No. What about Cooper? Yeah, that sounds all right. So you want a property in Cooper? That's a familiar story, believe it or no. I just want a property in Fife. We've localised it right down to Cooper. But it's all about again, that's the point. That's what an estate agent should be doing. It's key as well to make yourself known to your estate agents. I mean, let's be honest, I don't do this very well. A bit of charm. I don't do charm well. Straight to the point, right to the jugular. And
that can be charming on occasion, Jim.
I know, and then it'll keep you in front. Remember, the reality is people instigate me to get a result. So I just go and get it, and that's it. End of job. Get it. What you asked me to do, I'm going to get it for you. And then that's it, done. I'm just plan, execution. In a nice way, by the way. No. So be nice to your estate agents. Can phone them up and just liaise with them, be a bit warm in your charm and stuff like that, and make sure you're always in their mind as the first choice when something potentially comes onto the market that you might be interested in. And we do have specific buyers that are like that, and it is the first person you think of because you think, I really want to do something for them. I really want to help that person because they've been really nice to you. If you come on and just throw different things, I want this and I want that and I want this, and just have no skills with people. Again, another book I need to read. Okay. You have no skills with people. Read it for the 15th time. How to Win Friends and Influence People is another one I need to read. When an off-market opportunity comes up, they will think of you first because of that reason, because they feel obliged. It's the law of reciprocation and the laws of attraction, because you've done something for them or they've done something for you, and you feel like you reciprocate as a result. Waiting to sell, this is the key here, waiting to sell could cost you thousands as the trade-up gap widens. You might ask, how is it possible to lose out on a rising market when you're actually selling a property? The answer is the trade-up gap. Perry, would you like to cover this?
It's true. I mean, when people move, most people will buy a more expensive home. I think that's the thing, isn't it? And it will be more expensive than the one that they're selling. But if you're selling at 400,000 and buying at 500,000, your current property will rise, but your current property, will rise by 40,000 for every 10% increase. And if you think in the last 12 months, it was 16%, wasn't it? The average home. So I mean, that's a huge jump. So you're having to add that multiplier onto where you're going next as well. So, you know, suddenly then 16% of 440, you know, you're kind of in the 550 mark then, aren't you?
That's why it's important to wait for that window of opportunity where your estate agent actually gets you the right price and it allows you to get the next price and fall in line with that, so that trade-up gap doesn't widen, isn't it?
Absolutely. So, I mean, if you're sitting at 400, you're kind of going to the 440 mark. But if you're at 500, you're then at the 550 mark. So, you know, that's a big jump from your 400 to 550 effectively, isn't it? So, I mean, that's another £10,000 it will continue to drive by on all those multipliers ongoing. It's quite literally pays to move swiftly. And that's what we're talking about, isn't it? It's about that delay thing. Getting your home in the market, finding a buyer who's ready to offer as soon as the property becomes available is key. You know, we've talked about that. You can keep that trade-up gap between your sale and your purchase from widening any further by being organised, by being structured, by your agent knowing what you're wanting, by your agent doing all this kind of coming soons, top secrets, attracting buyers to that area because we know that that property's there and it's waiting for that person.
Well, this is the key point, isn't it? Why we do that? Because we attract the right buyers for these types of properties when they actually do hit the market because the person has found the property they're after. We're in a position because we've got people lined up already before we've even done anything, because we've done all the pre-marketing beforehand. We've done all that top secret. We've done that pre-portal. We've done that coming soon. So when they actually hit there, the buyers are already there. And they're kind of in the pipeline. I'm not saying everyone that's going to be qualified at that stage will actually look to buy your property. But what I'm saying, there's a strong chance, more than do nothing at all. Because at this point, what happens is we just get, you know, every other estate agent, what they're doing is they're just putting your house on a website and then hoping for the best that folk will inquire. That's kind of about it in a nutshell. And if any estate agent out there takes umbrage in that, challenge me on it. Quite happy to prove you wrong.
You've been on Amazon to order that book, Jim.
I like a good challenge. It's like I'll go head to head with anybody and show them that I'm always better at what I do. If you know, it's the whole thing. You know, if you climb 100 meters, I'll climb 200. If you climb 200, I'll climb 300. If you climb 300, I'll climb 400. To the point that I'll do anything possible to be the best at what I do and to be the pinnacle of what I'm doing. And that's it. That's just me in a nutshell. That's how I think. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. We ultimately said, you know, and I remember in the credit crunch when it happened, I said to everybody, I says, you know, I tell you what, if anything does go wrong, we could always go back to cleaning and the reality is, and I says, I'll be the best goddamn cleaner you've ever seen.
No matter what you're doing, you'll be the best at it.
It's true, and that's
Yeah.
the reality. It doesn't matter what it is.
What you're
If
doing,
you
yeah.
have that mindset and that attitude to be the best and to be outstanding, not just excellent, outstanding, playing on a completely different field. Everybody thinks they're on the same field. No. I'm on a completely different field. I've got my own playing field. That's really what it comes down to. And I invite people to play on my playing field, and that's fine. And we excel as a result of what we do. And, you know, leave everybody else. I'm not interested in what anybody else does. I'm interested in being better every single day at what I do, because it achieves a better result for the person that I'm representing and I'm looking after. That's what it comes down to.
Exactly. And even Anne-Marie and I get to kick that ball now and again, don't we?
Absolutely. So, the final one. Did you want to cover this, Perry? What is the final one in this scenario?
Oh, I think the final one is the beginning. The final is the beginning, to be true. The foundations of a solid move are built on the bottom and what you do when you move up. And it's all those things that happen in between that point to get you that sale, isn't it? So two of the most important elements of any home sale are stability and certainty, aren't they? We talked about earlier on about people who go the kind of off-market deals and then it falls through. They've got no understanding of it. They've got no certainty, really. They've maybe been attracted to it because maybe they've known the person, or it's been a number they thought would be delivered without really understanding the market. But chains are created from the top down. They have far less of both if you work from the bottom upwards. And committing to buying a property before getting yours under offer creates a number of doubts for everyone, not just for yourself, but for anyone coming to look at your house.
Puts me under a lot of pressure.
Does.
People say, it's like, you know, why would you do that? Why would you do that to yourself? But more importantly, why would you do it to me? It's like, because everybody, and I know, and I'll probably provide a rod to beat myself with by what I say and what I say on these shows, isn't it? And the fact that I could turn water into wine, you know, that sort of scenario. And you know, I have strong belief in myself, and it can come across as arrogance sometimes. But hey, tell me something I don't know. It's like, you know, not everybody's going to like me. But the reality is, I'm there to fix something. I'm there to sort something. I'm there to provide the solution. I'm there to do the job that I'm meant to be doing. But certainly, when you get in that scenario, as you said, Perry, it does put a lot of pressure on everybody round about you, and it's not a great feeling. Because for somebody like me, for me, it puts a lot of pressure on me, because I often think I should be selling the house in 2 or 3 days then, or even 2 or 3 hours. And that time in 2 or 3 days almost feels like 2 or 3 months in that period. And it does for a seller as well, because I spoke to somebody recently about that, because they put themselves in that situation. And I said, God, I feel like this is about blooming 2 or 3 months, never mind 2 or 3 weeks. And she says, well, oh God, I feel like it's about 6 months. And I went, you've done it to yourself. You've put yourself under so much pressure about, you know, doing it in this situation. This is why we keep saying to people, get us out beforehand, discuss what your requirements are. We'll tell you what the solution is. If you want to follow it, because we know it's the right solution for you. If you don't want to follow it, then, you know, you are going to suffer about the things that we're talking about here as a natural result of not following the best advice and best practice. After all, you know, if you're ill, who do you go to? A doctor.
Yeah.
You don't go to the joiner to fix you. I'll just lie on the table while you open up just now. You don't do it. You go to a doctor. You don't go to a joiner. So if you're selling your house, you go to an estate agent with a track record.
It's true though. But I mean, you know, just go back on that a step there before we can cover the pointers. I mean, committing to buying a property before getting your own under offer does create the pressure and the doubts. And the reasons behind that are that you've no idea what position your eventual buyer will be in.
Yeah.
How much they are ready to offer, and you've already offered on something else, or how soon they can move, and you've already perhaps committed to something on a date, and then suddenly you've got a price point, you've got a time point, you've got to find a person, and you've already committed to buying a house. That's a lot to put yourself under. The owners of the home you want to buy will also have expectations. They'll want you to move forward. They'll start getting a bit itchy, scratchy, and then they start getting a bit under pressure, don't they? And we see that often as well, Jim, don't we? And Anne-Marie, when people are going a bit, you know, you know, the solicitors are phoning us, the conveyancers, you know, have they got an offer yet? Have they got an offer yet? Because our client's not going to sign up yet until we get it. And it just creates a whole buzz of negativity around it, doesn't it?
You've got a huge amount of factors in this, and you've got to get the sun, the moon, and the stars to all align at the same time. And you're relying on people outside of your organization to do the job for you. That's you know, that's the challenge here. And you know, solicitors are under pressure. Let's be honest, they're still under pressure right now because everybody wants it like that. Yeah. And then what solicitors have to do is they have to deal with the land registry. The land registry is a law to their own. And then they obviously have to deal with, you know, title issues. So what happens if something happens with your title and you've got an older style property and you're not really sure where the boundaries were, or you've maybe taken part of the boundary, or the next door neighbour's taken part of the boundary, and then the buyer comes back and says, look, that'll have to be resolved first. Oh my God, you've left yourself in a really vulnerable position where you now no longer can conclude on your next property because you've committed to it before you've actually done anything with your own. So it's key here. This is why commercial property in Anstruther, you know, and all I did was beforehand, I says, look, let's have a look at the title first. Let's look at where we are first. Let's look at what I'm selling first before I go and shoot my mouth off and actually say, this is what we're selling. And then the next minute it's like, well, it's not really, because you've got a right away through there for another business. And it's like, oh, right, okay. That's key there. And another one down Shore Street as well. You know, we just have to make sure all the titles was right, what we can classify as a 2-bedroom rather than a 1-bedroom. You know, what we can, it's got planning permission for a 3-bedroom now, and then where that planning is and what that planning entails. And then, lo and behold, we found out it's got a back garden. And then the first time round, we weren't told that, but only because we did the investigation and we found out that back garden existed. So that again added a significant amount of value to the property as well in terms of the home report value. So there's lots of different things that an estate agent, a qualified estate agent, knows what they're doing and has the experience and track record and understanding about where to look, can actually make that happen for you without you putting yourself under pressure. What's the third one here?
Another buyer is always going to be in a better position, perhaps, and could offer on the home that you're hoping to buy. So, you know, they could come in and just take that away from you, that dream home.
Seen that happen. Seen that happen. You seen that happen, Anne-Marie?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's you really need to just be in the right position, because you're just leaving yourself open.
I know that could happen right now. I had someone else contact me. They were talking about they couldn't get a mortgage. Now they're no selling, they're no buying through us either, but they wanted my advice. They've made an offer on a property. It's actually been accepted with another estate agent, and they cannot get a mortgage. What does that tell you about that estate agent's qualification process? They can't conclude. I know at this point they can't conclude. And that property has been put under offer and sold right now. And this person's actually told me that they cannot conclude with this other estate agent. There's no way of doing that unless someone else comes in and buys it with them or for them. And that probably won't be possible. So they've actually made an offer and the estate agent has accepted it. And this seller now with this other estate agent actually thinks they've got their house sold, but in actual fact they've not. And they've now taken it off the market because they've got sold on it. So no one else will inquire about it now. It's going to hit the fan.
Yeah, big time. Yeah. I think as well, you know, being strong in a strong position, you know, keeps the momentum of your sale together, doesn't it? Chains collapse because people start to feel frustrated, to feel the process is going too slow, that everything's going to a halt, that they're getting started. The seas of doubt start to come in, don't they? And that creates pressure. But getting the foundations right, you'll help everyone feel more confident in this process, and it'll feel secure.
That's what Andrea says, you know, south of the border offers. I've got an offer on my house. It's like, it's like, okay then. It's not really solid like Scotland is. It's just that you've got an offer, but it's only. I mean, to be honest, English legislation in terms of housing legislation, English and Scottish are completely different. You know, the English system actually wishes they were the Scottish system, to be honest. Because once you're over the line in Scotland and you're more or less agreed, it is a done deal. It's very rare you'll actually get somebody pulling out. But with the English system, the problem with that is anybody can make an offer and pull out anytime they want. And it's almost like accepted practice that this is done. And in Scotland, that's like, no, that'll never happen. Because what happens is the Law Society is controlled. The solicitor system, the law in Scotland is controlled by the Law Society of Scotland. And every single member is a member. Every single solicitor that can do conveyancing in Scotland is a member of the Law Society of Scotland. And the Law Society of Scotland says quite clearly, if your client does anything underhanded, you drop them like a stone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's effectively what we do as well. It's exactly the same thing. Where in England, it doesn't really matter. Nobody's bothered. Everybody just wants to be paid money. Whereas in Scotland, it's a no, nobody will represent you. You're done. You'll probably never get your house sold now because no one wants to do your conveyancing for you, because they'll ask who your last solicitor was. They'll find out there was a problem with that, and then they'll end up not dealing with you either. So it's a real system in place, which is a very honourable system. As well as, in Scotland, contractual law in Scotland, a verbal contract is actually legally binding. It's not in England. It's not a legally binding contract. Now, whether you prove it was verbal or no, if it comes to it in a court of law, it's like, oh, well, he said and she said and all the rest of it. But actually in legislation, a verbal contract is legally binding in Scotland. So if you can prove it by taping somebody's voice, then they're done. The verbal contract. So it just shows you how more stringent Scottish legislation is and more definitive in terms of the interpretation. And I think that's really key about buying in Scotland, the good thing about it. But you're right, chains always collapse because people feel that they're going too slow or it's grinded to a halt. And again, that's managing expectations, isn't it? So that's where we cover that. So it's not just about getting the sale over the line, it's about progress chasing. So we know once a week we talk about this, about, how's this one getting on, how's that one getting on? We know it's sold, but how's it getting on? Where's it proceeding to next? Is there any issues with it? So just in case, we've got somebody else lined up in the background to take their place in case anything happens. It's as simple as that. Now that is a world-class estate agent as far as I'm concerned. That's what the expectations are.
Yeah, I agree.
Final words. Anne-Marie, final words. Let's wrap up.
Well, for me, the final words really, make sure you're in that position to proceed. Look at where you are in those tiers that we spoke about. Where are you in that? Yeah. How strong is your position? Make sure you're, as strong as you can.
You're in tier 1 or 2 at least. Tier 1 or 2 or 3. But, if you're in tier 5, you've not got your house in the market, you're never going to find your dream home if you've got to sell to buy. It's pretty unlikely at this point in this market.
Yeah, that's my point.
Henry.
For me, it's that chicken and egg situation, isn't it? It's get yourself in that buyer ready situation, get yourself in that seller ready situation, be clear on what your expectations are, be clear on what it is that you're looking for from the market and how quickly you want all of your ducks to line up, and be sure that your estate agent understands all of that as well. But also, we talked about conveyancers. Make sure you've got your conveyancing in place as well, because sometimes we actually get to an agreement on a sale and we ask who their legal representation is and they go, oh, actually, I don't have anyone.
Yeah.
Be ready is basically what you need to do.
This is why it's important to make sure you've got that at the beginning when you sign it up. So most occasions I'll actually get who their legal are beforehand, and then we'll notify them before the property even goes in the market, so they can get everything in the process to order everything up, to get everything together. So when it does sell, they're in a position to do something about it. If it needs to be quick, if it needs to be longer at Disney, it's fine as well. But just that they've got their ducks in a row. I've got to say, my final thoughts on this, I love certainty. I love creating certainty. And this is why sitting down with someone in the beginning and understanding the process that they want me to achieve and the results they want to achieve, I then can plan out exactly what I need to do in order to almost guarantee that certainty towards the end. And that's the key here. That's what I love so much about what I do. It is a very structured, processed, disciplined process in its whole thing. It's like a critical path analysis. If anybody knows what critical path is, it's making sure everything goes after the other and it's all in line, and almost knowing the answer before you start the journey. That's why it's important to speak to your estate agent as soon as possible, even though it's maybe 2 or 3 years from now that you plan to move, so you just know what the value is, because it might coincide with things like retirement, which is essential as well. It's the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make. It's your biggest tax-free asset. Why would you not take advice? Most people spend more planning on their next holiday than they do on selling their home or their financial advice.
That's true.
Yeah.
So get the right advice from the right people. And that's it, guys. Thanks very much for coming on the show. Really appreciate that. And I'm going to say goodbye from her, and it's goodbye from her.
Bye, guys.
Bye, folks.